The first time I thought I was losing my mind. It was over the scent of lavender. It was a Tuesday. I remember because Lena was supposed to be in Seattle for a tech conference, and I was watering her ridiculously extensive collection of succulents. Our apartment, a starkly modern space of glass, chrome, and white walls, always felt emptier when she was gone, the silence amplifying the hum of the refrigerator. As I leaned over a pot of acacia, I caught a faint, sweet floral scent in the air. It was delicate, almost imperceptible, like a ghost of a perfume. It wasn't mine. I was a sandalwood and cedar person. It wasn't Lena's. She wore a sharp, citrusy scent that was her signature. I straightened up, sniffing the air like a bloodhound. Lavender. Faint, but unmistakable. I checked the bathroom, our bedroom, the laundry. Nothing. The scent was gone as quickly as it had appeared. When Lena came home 2 days later, all energy and triumphant stories of keynote speakers and networking wins, I mentioned it. "That's so weird," I said, as we unpacked her suitcase. "I smelled the strangest perfume in the apartment on Tuesday. Light lavender." Lena paused, a stack of perfectly folded blazers in her hands. She looked at me, her brow furrowed, but not with curiosity. It was with a practiced, gentle concern that always set my teeth on edge. "Lavender? Honey, are you sure? Maybe it was the new cleaning spray Mrs. Gable used." "No, I was here when she cleaned. This was different. It was like perfume." She set the blazers in the closet and came over to me, cupping my face in her hands. Her touch was soft, her thumb stroking my cheek. "Chloe, you have such an overactive imagination. It's one of the things I love about you." She smiled, a dazzling, disarming thing. "You've been working so hard on that university archive project. You're probably just stressed. Your senses can play tricks on you when you're tired." And just like that, it was over. My observation, a simple, factual thing, had been deftly reframed as a symptom of my stress, a quirk of my overactive imagination. I was the unreliable narrator of my own life. I let it go, but it kept happening. There, with the car keys, which I always left in the ceramic bowl by the door, suddenly appearing on the kitchen counter. "You probably just forgot you put them there, babe," Lena would say, kissing my forehead. There was the expensive bottle of wine we were saving, which seemed to be a 1/4 inch lower than I remembered. "We had a glass last week, remember? After that awful meeting you had." I didn't remember. I was sure we hadn't, but Lena's confidence was a tidal wave. My uncertainty was a sandcastle. Lena was a force of nature, a self-made entrepreneur who had built a successful branding agency from the ground up. She moved through the world with an unshakable certainty that drew people to her like moths to a flame. I, on the other hand, lived in the quiet, methodical world of historical archives. My job was to find patterns, to verify facts, to piece together narratives from forgotten letters and dusty records. I was a professional verifier of truths. Yet in my own home, my own reality felt flimsy, constantly questioned and undermined. She called it my anxiety, my tendency to spiral. She was so convincing, so loving in her concern, that I started to believe her. I began to second-guess every perception. The floorboards of my own mind felt creaky, unreliable. Maybe I was just stressed. Maybe I was becoming forgetful and paranoid. The gaslighting was so subtle, so expertly woven into the fabric of our daily lives, that I didn't see it as an attack. I saw it as her loving attempt to manage my fragile psyche. The breaking point, the first real crack in the facade, was an earring. Lena was away again, this time at a week-long wellness retreat in the mountains for high-achieving CEOs. "Number. Cell service," she told me with a dramatic sigh. but it was a mandatory part of her elite business group. I was cleaning, trying to impose some order on the unyielding quiet of the apartment, when I slid the vacuum attachment under the edge of our low-profile sofa. It sucked something up with a sharp clink. I turned the machine off and opened the dust compartment. There, nestled amongst the dust bunnies, was a single earring. It was small and elegant, a tiny, glittering diamond stud set in platinum. It wasn't mine. My jewelry was all silver and turquoise, earthy and imperfect. It wasn't Lena's. She favored bold, architectural statement pieces. I held the tiny, perfect thing in the palm of my hand. It felt alien, an artifact from a world that had no business being in our living room. My heart began to beat a little faster. I waited 2 days, wrestling with myself. Don't be crazy, Chloe. It's nothing. But I couldn't shake the feeling. I broke the no-service rule and sent Lena a text, a picture of the earring attached. Found this under the sofa. Is it yours? A few hours later, her reply came through. Surprisingly fast for someone on a remote mountain. LOL no. Where did you dig that up from? Must have been the previous tenants from years ago. You and your archaeological digs. I stared at the text. We'd had the apartment professionally deep cleaned before we moved in 3 years ago. We bought the sofa new. The idea that it was from a previous tenant was ludicrous. I texted back. It was under the edge, Lena. It couldn't have been. There for 3 years. Her reply was instant. Chloe, honey, please don't start this. It's a random piece of metal. You're letting your anxiety spiral over nothing. Can we please just talk about this when I get back? I'm trying to meditate. The condescension, the immediate pivot to my supposed mental state, was a splash of cold water to the face. She wasn't just dismissing my question. She was dismissing my sanity. And in that moment, sitting on the floor of our silent, sterile apartment, holding a tiny, glittering lie in my hand, something inside me shifted. The researcher, the archivist, the part of me that Lena had so carefully sedated, began to wake up. I wasn't imagining things. I needed proof. My hunt for the truth began where our modern lives are catalogued. The cloud. Lena was meticulous about backing up her phone. Our shared family account was a vast, digital archive of our lives together. She loved to geotag her photos, creating a map of her travels and successes. I started with the photos from her Seattle conference 2 months ago. I swiped up on a picture of her smiling with a name-tagged colleague. The location data was there. Seattle. Wah. I checked another. Same. Then I got to a photo of her dinner. A beautifully plated piece of salmon. I swiped up. No location information. That was odd. I checked the next photo. A selfie of her in her hotel room. No location. The next 3 photos from that trip were the same. My pulse quickened. It wasn't conclusive, but it was a deviation from her established pattern. A deliberate omission. Next, I turned to our finances. It felt like a violation, a betrayal, but the feeling was drowned out by a desperate need for solid ground. I logged into our joint credit card account. Lena handled the finances, claiming I shouldn't have to worry about boring numbers. I scrolled through the last few months of statements, my eyes scanning for anything out of place. And then I found it. A charge from 2 months ago, dated on the 2nd day of her Seattle trip. It was from a restaurant called Aria. I'd never heard of it. I Googled it. Aria was a famously romantic, notoriously expensive Italian restaurant. It was located in San Francisco. My breath caught in my throat. San Francisco? She was supposed to be in Seattle. I scanned the statement further. On the same day, there was another charge. A boutique hotel, the Crimson Door, also in San Francisco. The day after, a charge from Fleur, a high-end florist. I frantically cross-referenced the dates with my calendar. Seattle. She was in Seattle. Or at least that's what she'd told me. The pieces were clicking into place, forming a picture I didn't want to see. The blank geotags on her photos weren't a glitch. They were a cover dash-up. My mind was reeling, but the researcher in me was now in full control. A cold, methodical calm settling over my panic. I needed more. I needed something undeniable. My thoughts turned to the garage. Lena's car, a brand new top-of-the-line sedan she adored, was her baby. It was equipped with every possible piece of technology, including a sophisticated GPS, an infotainment system that tracked everything. I had never driven it. Lena always said my driving made her nervous. I crept down to the building's secure garage, my heart pounding with a mixture of fear and adrenaline. The car was parked in its designated spot, sleek and silent. I used the spare key to unlock it, the interior lights glowing to life. I slipped into the driver's seat, the smell of expensive leather filling my nostrils. It took me 20 minutes of fumbling through menus and submenus on the large touchscreen display, but I finally found it. Trip history. My finger trembled. As I tapped the icon, a list of recent destinations appeared, complete with dates, times, and durations. Most were expected. Her office, the airport, the yoga studio. But as I scrolled back through the past few months, a single address appeared. Again and again. An address on a street called Canopy Lane, a place I had never heard of. The trips were always late at night. One was dated last Tuesday, when she was supposedly at a late networking dinner. The car had left her office building at 7 p.m. and had driven directly to Canopy Lane, staying for nearly 4 hours before returning to our apartment garage just after midnight. Another trip matched the night I'd worked late at the university library. She had texted me goodnight from home, claiming she was exhausted and already in bed. The car's log told a different story. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold my phone steady to take pictures of the screen. This was it. This was the proof. This was real. Back in the apartment, I typed the Canopy Lane address into a search engine. It was in a secluded, wealthy enclave on the other side of the city, an area of sprawling modern homes and gated driveways. A public record search on the property address gave me a name, Amelia Vance. The name meant nothing to me. With a deep sense of dread, I typed the name into a social media search bar. The first result was a private profile, but the profile picture was a clear, smiling headshot. It was a woman about Lena's age, with striking blonde hair and a confident smile. And dangling from her left ear was a tiny, glittering earring, a platinum-set diamond stud. I felt the air leave my body in a rush. A silent, guttural punch. It was her. The owner of the earring. The resident of Canopy Lane. The reason for the secret trips. The deleted geotags. The lies. I spent the next 24 hours in a fugue state of methodical activity. I created a new folder on my laptop, titling it simply Proof. I saved the photos of the car's GPS log. I took screenshots of the credit card statements highlighting the San Francisco charges. I saved a screenshot of Amelia Vance's profile picture, circling the earring in red. I documented every lie, every discrepancy, creating a timeline of deceit that was as irrefutable as any historical record I had ever archived. For every time she had said, "You're imagining things," I now had a timestamped GPS coordinate. For every time she had said, "You're being paranoid," I now had a credit card receipt. For every time she had said, "It's just your anxiety, honey," I now had a face, a name, and an address. When I was done, I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel sorrow. I felt a profound, chilling, and utterly liberating sense of clarity. I wasn't crazy. My reality was real, and it was a reality I could no longer share with her. I methodically packed a suitcase. I didn't take much. Just my clothes, my books, my laptop, the things that were undeniably mine. I printed out every document from the proof folder and laid the pages out in a neat grid on our stark white coffee table. A museum of our undoing. Lena came home the next afternoon, glowing from her week of wellness. She swept into the apartment, dropping her designer luggage on the floor and pulling me into a hug. "God, I missed you," she murmured into my hair. "Did you miss me? How was your week? Were you able to relax? Did you feel less anxious?" I didn't answer. I just gently pulled away from her embrace and gestured toward the coffee table. "What's all this?" she asked, her smile faltering. As she saw the collection of papers, I looked her directly in the eye, my voice even and calm, the voice of a person standing on solid ground. "I found the proof," I said. She walked slowly towards the table, her eyes scanning the documents. I watched her face, a fascinating study in deconstruction. I saw the initial confusion, the flicker of recognition, the dawning horror, and then the frantic search for an escape route, a new lie. "Chloe, what is this? Is this from your work?" she started, her voice attempting its usual soothing cadence. "Honey, you look pale. You've been obsessing over something, haven't you? Let's put this away and—" "Stop," I said. The word was quiet, but it cut through the air like a shard of glass. "Stop talking." She fell silent, her gaze fixed on the GPS map that showed her car parked on Canopy Lane for 4 hours. She looked at the bill from the romantic restaurant in San Francisco. She looked at the picture of the smiling blonde woman, at the red circle around the diamond earring. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. It was the first time in our relationship I had ever seen her without a script. The master manipulator, the weaver of narratives, had no words. Her entire arsenal, the gentle concern, the loving condescension, the casual gaslighting, was useless against the cold, hard weight of the evidence in front of her. The truth had finally entered the room, and there was no space left for her lies. Her face, stripped of its confident mask, crumpled. It wasn't a look of remorse. It was the look of a chess master who has been unexpectedly, brutally checkmated. "I am not imagining things," I said, my voice resonating with a strength I hadn't felt in years. "I'm a researcher. I find facts. And the fact is, our life has been a lie." I picked up my suitcase, which was waiting by the door. "I'm leaving, Lena." Her head snapped up, panic finally flaring in her eyes. "Chloe, wait. We can talk about this. You don't understand. It's complicated." "No," I said, turning the doorknob. "It's actually very simple." Walking out of that apartment felt like taking my first breath after nearly drowning. The pain of the betrayal was a sharp, physical ache in my chest, but it was overshadowed by an exhilarating, liberating wave of vindication. I wasn't crazy. My perceptions were valid. My mind was my own. The weeks that followed were a blur of finding a new apartment, changing my address, and blocking Lena on every platform imaginable. She tried to reach out, sending long, rambling emails that swung wildly between tearful apologies and accusations that I had violated her privacy. I deleted them all without reading past the subject line. Her words had no more power over me. I found a small, sunny apartment on the other side of town, and I filled it with color, with plants that required no special care, with mismatched furniture, and with the scent of sandalwood and cedar. It was messy and vibrant and completely, unapologetically mine. My work at the archive became my sanctuary. The feel of old paper, The satisfying click of a declassified file. Steady pursuit of verifiable history, it grounded me. I was good at my job because my intuition was sharp. My attention to detail unwavering. The very skills Lena had tried to convince me were symptoms of a disorder were, in fact, my greatest strengths. It's been almost a year now. I sometimes think about the sheer amount of energy Lena must have expended to maintain her double life. The intricate web of lies she had to spin every single day. And I think about the energy I expended trying to contort my own reality to fit into her narrative, constantly questioning my own mind. The proof I found didn't just expose her affair. It did something far more important. It proved to me that my senses could be trusted. It validated the quiet, persistent voice inside me that had been whispering the truth all along. Finding the proof didn't just set me free from Lena. It set me free from the prison of self-doubt she had so carefully constructed. I had finally archived our relationship, filed it away under its proper heading, fiction. And then I closed the book and started writing my own true story.